CO-OP on the questionnaire, in which we will present the results of the analysis that we have done with the input from the call 1 and 2 projects, and in terms of their results, and also about call 3 project ambitions. My name is Uwe Herzog, and I have the pleasure of chairing through this webinar. Important announcement at start, as usual, as this webinar will be recorded. I'd like to make everyone aware that we will record the webinar and also make it online afterwards in the YouTube channel of the SNS JU. Before we go into the actual presentation, some introductory remarks from my side. So first of all, the information that we present today in the webinar has been prepared by SNS-OPS and SNS CO-OP support actions. As you might know, SNS-OPS has meanwhile ended, but it has prepared the starting point, the questionnaire, and been in touch with the projects for requesting the information. But the ultimate analysis of the feedback received has then been prepared by the SNS CO-OP support action, and it's also SNS CO-OP who is organizing the webinar today. The motivation and target behind this analysis is to do a support of a gap analysis on the SNS projects, and to get a very good overview of the progress that the projects have achieved in their first and second year. For the call 3 projects with which we will start, we will present a comprehensive overview of their plans. You can see that here in the schedule here. We are now in the middle of 2025. Call 3 projects have started beginning of 2025. So what we have asked the projects is to give us some information about your plans, and structured in 3 topics in terms of technical, vision, and market aspects. For the call 1 and 2 projects, which have started in 2023 or 2024, we have asked them for their results, and specifically in the questionnaire this year, we asked to focus only on the results achieved in 2024. And with that, we have asked for progress in terms of a number of KPIs in the area of dissemination, trialing, standard contribution, IPR, and other criteria. And just as a background information, we have collected that with online questionnaire from 78 projects, which is quite an enormous amount of data that we have collected and had to process and analyze. And the key insights that we have extracted during our analysis will then be presented today. Also to remind everyone, if there are any questions coming up in the course of the webinar, please put the question in the chat. We will look at the chat all the time and then either answer directly after the presentation, or we also have a Q&A slot at the end of the webinar where we can bring the questions up again. That's the agenda for today. I'm not sure whether we have someone from the SNS office to also give a short welcome from their side. And then afterwards, we start with the call 3 projects. And here we have presentations from Costa Prichas on the technical insights, Lene from Telenor on the vision, and from Jessica Canero on market insights. And then we go to the call 1 and 2 projects, and Ada Gurella and Pierre-Yves Danet will present the progress on the KPIs. And as I said, at the end, we have 10 minutes reserved for Q&A. With that, question is now, Javier, are you in the webinar? Can you say a few words? No, seems not the case.
Uwe, I don't see Javier. Probably they are still in the governing board meeting. So But
Okay.
I'm Odysseus from SNS office. So
Yes. You want to say something
yeah.
instead?
First of all,
Okay.
what I would like to say that actually this exercise is very, very important for us, and thank you very much for your effort and for doing all this analysis, and also all the projects that they have participated in this questionnaire. It is very important for us, to use this questionnaire as a part of our monitoring framework of the activities of SNS. Both for our annual activity reporting, but also in the context of closely monitoring the KPIs of the program. So it is very important, and we would like to also to be in very close collaboration with you and the project in order to make sure that actually we will catch all the achievements that they are start coming, and make sure that actually we will properly communicate that to the wider community. That's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Odysseus. Yeah, indeed. I fully agree. So then let's move on and start with the first presentation, who will be given by Kostas Trichas from 6GIA on the technical insights feedback from Call 3 projects. So I stop sharing, and Kostas, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. So hopefully you can now see my screen in full screen mode.
Yes.
So my name is Kostas Trichas. I'm with the CGIA. I'm also the Work Package 1 leader in SNS CO-OP. So it's my pleasure today to present to you the insights from the technical part of our questionnaire, which of course comprises the work of multiple colleagues, as you can also see here, since the technical section is the largest section of our questionnaire and requires quite a few people to try and process the input. What we'll go over today refers to the type of key performance indicators that projects are targeting, the technological enablers that they're using, or network aspects that are addressed in its projects. The verticals that are addressed, the use of AI, ML mechanisms, or the use cases, standardization targets and validation methodologies, as well as information about their trials, the user equipment they're using, and the open source solutions they're using, or energy efficiency issues they might be dealing with. This section is structured for each of these questions. We'll first see the answers from the Call 3 projects, from the 15 Call 3 projects that answered the questionnaire, and then we'll see the cumulative responses from all active projects, so all 78 projects that have responded to the questionnaire so far, to see the overall trend of the SNS JU. Apologies if I have to go relatively quick, but time is limited and there are a lot of questions, but of course I'll be happy to take any questions afterwards. And as always, these slides will become available through the event page as soon as this webinar is over. So without further ado, let me dive into the first question, which was about the main KPIs being addressed in Call 3 projects. So we see that energy efficiency and reliability are by far the most addressed KPIs by Call 3 projects. Interestingly enough, energy efficiency is being addressed by all 15 projects from Call 3 that respond to the questionnaire. And we, of course, still see that traditional network KPIs maintain their momentum, as we had seen in previous calls. And that what was interesting was that there was seen a rise into AI-related and security-related KPIs, which were mentioned under the other category, as you can see in the bottom half of the graph. So this usually follows the trends set out by the call text. Now, comparing this to the cumulative responses we've received so far, so out of the entirety of SNS projects that are currently active, we can, let's say, distinguish 3 different tiers of KPIs being targeted. The first one, which receives most of the attention, are energy efficiency, reliability, and latency. These are the top KPIs being investigated in the SNS JU. Then a second tier where there's still a lot of interest is on peak data rate, user data rate, spectrum efficiency, and positioning. So we've seen a constant presence of these KPIs as well. And there is, let's say, a third tier, which really depends on the focus of its project and may contain connection density, mobility area, traffic capacity, and provisioning time. So some projects looking at specific issues employ this type of KPIs. Now, the other very interesting aspect we're investigating is what type of technological issues and aspects are addressed by each project. We see there is a very broad range of technologies being engaged. As you've seen, there are a lot of different aspects that the project are investigating. At the very top, we have AI, ML powered technologies and system network architecture and sustainability or energy efficiency solutions. This is in keeping with the trend that we've seen in previous years. But we, of course, see in this question that code-specific technologies such as sustainability and edge ubiquitous computing and trustworthiness are increased in this call as a result, direct result of the response to the specific call text for call 3. We can also see the aggregate results for all 78 projects. And it comes as no surprise that AI and ML and system network architecture are at the very top. This was from the very beginning one of the key focus topics for the SNS JU projects. And we see that there are more than 22 different technologies and issues being addressed. That also offers the possibility for cross-comparison between results of the different projects and for cross-validation of some of the results that we start seeing now. So overall, it's quite a good spread, ensuring that the European expertise will progress in all of these important sectors on our way to developing 6G networks. The next thing we're looking at is which the most popular verticals being addressed within the projects. So for call 3 alone, we've seen that there are 11 different vertical sectors. That's very encouraging to see that just from 15 projects, we're addressing 11 different vertical sectors. We see at the very top security, PPDR, and industry 4.0 and manufacturing, closely followed by smart energy, automotive, smart city, smart health, transport, logistics, etc. So we've also seen that 3 projects are developing technologies which are can be considered, let's say, cross-vertical, and 5 more that are addressing very specific vertical sections or specific applications within a vertical sector, so more focused research. What's also interesting here to note when looking at the aggregate results is that Industry 4.0 and manufacturing is by far the most addressed vertical sector in SNS JU, followed by smart city and tourism. And once again, there is a very healthy, let's say, coverage of multiple sectors that will ensure that we keep in touch with multiple different vertical stakeholders. Based on insights like this, it's why we've also initiated in the technology board let's say the drafting of different white papers addressing a lot of these verticals to inform the public on what the SNS JU projects are working about with respect to this vertical. So very, very important insights that we're gaining out of this questionnaire. A similar aspect going a little bit deeper is the type of application or use case that's being addressed by the projects. We see that in call 3, we have intelligent operation network at the top, followed by predictive maintenance and digital twin applications. Once again, we see a very good coverage and most of the usual suspects that you would expect in use cases like this, like metaverse, multisensory, and XR, and tactile and haptic communications or holographic communications. So, and they're all covered by more than just one project, offering cross-comparison and validation possibilities. Again, looking at the aggregate data, this is once again following the trends that we've seen before from verticals with certain application and use cases of Industry 4.0 and manufacturing at the very top, followed by digital twinning and transportation applications and smart city and tourism. So once again, this is sort of verifying that indeed we're following on the right path that's being drawn by the call text. and that there are no specific gaps in terms of vertical sectors or applications. Then diving a bit into the AI and ML mechanisms that the projects are addressing, it's interesting to note that all Call3 projects are making use of AI and ML in one way or the other. What was again interesting to observe is that 40% of them are actually not certain that they can provide their training data sets that they're using for this algorithms. This is, we've seen a repeated theme that the researchers may have trouble with, but we need to do our best to secure this type of data. And we also looked into what type of functionalities are they targeting with this AI and ML mechanisms. At the very top, we have network management and orchestration, followed by run aspects, then device, core, and security and related functions. This is also, let's say, pretty much the trend that we've seen overall. So SNS JU researchers are really mostly focused on network and management and orchestration functionality when utilizing AI and developing AI and ML functionality. Then come run aspects, which are again very popular, followed by device, core, and security-related functions. Once again, you will see that actually there are multiple projects targeting each, which really helps out. And of course, we recently published an extensive white paper on the AI and ML methodologies followed within the SNS JU, in case you're interested to follow up. Next, we look a bit at which of the standardization bodies and specification bodies are targeted by the newcomer projects. As it comes as no surprise that 3GPP and ETSI at the very top of European researchers, but of course more international organizations such as ITU and ITF or IEEE are not falling that much behind. Once again, this is something we've seen throughout the years from all 78 projects. ETSI and 3GPP, there's actually a significant involvement there from SNS JU projects, which is excellent, while also keeping up with ITF and ITU. It really also depends a little bit on the scope of its project and where they have the opportunities to make the most significant contributions and most impactful contributions. Then looking specifically at which of these standardization groups Call3 projects are mostly targeting, we see that at the top we have 3GPP Run 1 and SA2. Well, there is a very healthy, let's say, spread of distribution of different specification groups. So overall, I mean, we don't portray everything here, as it would be unreadable, but we've seen more than 30 different subgroups that are being targeted by Call3. And we also see that ISO, CAMARA, and CENELEC subgroups among the other categories. So very good spread, which hopefully will mean we'll have a very broad impact from the SNS JU work. Moving on to open source organizations that are being targeted by Call3 projects, we see, of course, that Open Run, OAI, and Open Interface are at the top. These are repeating themes that we've seen from the researchers. This is the same trend as in previous years. And once again, we see multiple other organizations, which indicates that, once again, Call3 projects are in very good contact with the open source community and making sure that there is a bidirectional flow of information. Looking there at the aggregate picture, for which there were no Call1 data available, because this is a question that was introduced later in the questionnaire. So we only have Call2 and Call3 data available. We see confirmation of this figure that ORAN and Open Interface are at the very top, followed by some CAMARA and ETSI other groups on open source. Then, in terms of end user equipment that the projects are planning to use for their testing and trialing, it comes as no surprise that once again, mobile phones are at the top of the preference of the researchers. But you will see once again that there is a broad range of UEs used, ranging from IoT sensors and modern routers and robots to satellite receivers, XR equipment, etc. Once again, that it's reassuring that there's no significant gap being created within the SNS EU research, and that we are on par with research activities in the rest of the world. This is once again verified by looking at the aggregate picture of all 78 projects. Mobile phones are, of course, at the top of the list. There's a broad mentioning of other devices. And there's also, we've seen also the mentioning of more specialized UEs that are only, let's say, used by a handful of projects, which really depend on very targeted use cases that they are addressing, which require some very specific user equipment. But once again, we can see this sort of differentiation and preference of the different projects. Then moving on to the way in which the projects are going to try to validate the technologies. And that means the type of trials or pilots or validation methods that they're going to use. So from the top chart, we see that most of Call3 projects are actually targeting trial of a level TRL5 or TRL6. So that's relatively more advanced than the earlier projects that we have seen from Call1 and Call2, which were potentially looking at a little bit, let's say, lower TRLs. We, of course, see TRL3 and 4 that are also covered within Call3 projects, but it's also good to see this transition slowly to higher TRLs. In terms of when they're planning to set up their trials, most of them, I see we have some earlier in 2025 and 2026, but most of the trials are scheduled for 2027 and 2028, where Call3 projects will be more mature, as it can be expected. It's also interesting to look where these projects are going to set up their trials. I remind you that there might be multiple trials per project. So you see here the distribution in European countries in terms of trials and pilots. In total, there's going to be experiments taking place in more than 17 EU countries and South Korea through the EU, through this international cooperation project. We see at the very top that we have Greece, Germany, and Spain, while we also expect to have some additional insights here based on the data that we get from the vertical engagement tracker, which is something that the projects are filling in with a little bit more detail on the type of trials they are performing. It's also interesting to see the aggregate results here from Call2 and Call3. Once again, unfortunately, we don't have the data for Call1 for this. Where we see Greece, Spain, and Italy and Germany at the top, where most trials and pilots taking place in these countries. But again, there's a healthy spread across 25 EU countries, which is great to see that we engage researchers and experimenters from so many countries. Now, in terms of vertical engagement and how the different projects engage vertical stakeholders in their projects, we see that in the case of Call3, most projects have opted to include them as full-time project partners, which is great news as that ensures their full engagement in multiple aspects of the project. While there are some fewer mentions of simply having links or doing workshops with them or using them as part of an advisory board. Once again, here we also asked what is the specific role that these verticals hold in the different projects. And we see that it can vary. We have vertical stakeholders participating in the integration of vertical systems with a project developed platform. We see them sometimes using vertical devices or equipment for testing and trialing with project platforms, or simply providing the requirements and doing assisting with the evaluation. So also end user testing and common technology development is also quite common within Call3 projects. Once again, looking at the big picture here, we see that a similar trend is following. Of course, in this case, at the very top, we have requirements provisioning. So that also indicates that in aerial calls of SNS EU, that was the top priority, followed by the use of vertical devices and equipment, and then the integration of vertical systems with project developed platforms. But once again, it's like a multifaceted approach to including vertical stakeholders in the SNS JU, which also creates the appropriate links to further commercialize the solutions that will be coming out of the projects. Then moving towards the end of my presentation, we also want to learn a bit more on how the different projects address energy efficiency. It's as I mentioned before, it's interesting that every single one of the Call 3 projects that was questioned about this, they mentioned that to investigate energy efficiency solutions. In most cases, it's software-based, but a few hardware-based solutions are investigated as well. And we also see that in most cases, those solutions are being developed to be applied in the run or at the service and application level. But that's again a good spread over different categories, and we see that 0 projects actually say that we don't engage with energy efficiency solutions at all. That was it from me. Again, apologies for the fast pace, but hopefully you got a first insight, and I'll be happy to take any of your questions in the Q&A session. So Uwe, back to you.
Thank you, Kostas, for the presentation. I was just looking in the chat. No questions so far. Maybe people need to think about a bit more, and then we'll have a question at the end. So let's move forward then with the next presentation on the vision aspects. And Per-Lene from Telenor is going to present that to us.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Okay, so I'm Per-Lene, I'm from Telenor, and I'm going to present the survey results on the vision aspects, mainly from the Call 3 projects, but also have some discussions related to the progress from, or the changes from Call 1 and Call 2 during the presentation. So let's go. In the vision section, we have asked questions related to 5 different, let's say, categories. It's on societal challenges, it's the societal values. Also tried to address the problem or issue on key value indicators, and not least the 6G vision itself and the issue about sustainability. Some highlights just before we start. The key takeaways from this part is that in the societal challenges, we see that sustainability is very important by the projects, also new business models and market segments, and not least the strong European impact is highlighted now. For the societal values, energy efficiency is considered most important, followed by privacy, security, and human safety. And related to the KVIs, and we have asked now how they work with this, as we did also last time. And still, most projects will use trials and experiments to assess the key value indicators. Related directly to the 6G vision aspects, we see maybe a shift here, that the transition from 5G is becoming more important to sustain and enhance the 5G innovations, but not only that, also to make sure the integration of new service capabilities are realized. Finally, the UN Sustainable Development Goals have been addressed directly, and as we always have seen, the goals on industry, innovation, infrastructure, together with sustainable cities and communities, are the most important goals. So let's go a bit down into the details of this. First of all, the societal challenges addressed in the project. As I mentioned, sustainable 6G is very important, and this includes, for example, energy, climate, environmental impact of the current and future technology solutions. Second, new business models and market segments are important to address. for example, supporting new use cases in various industries. Third on the list is the strong European impact of future downstream 6G standardization stages based on Europe-wide consensus. And if you compare a bit to the Call 2 survey in 2024, sustainability has now been classified as a challenge, while previously we discussed this in the term of a value. This distinction between challenge and value is a bit blurred, and I'll also come back a bit more discussion on the development here. So moving on, the second question in the vision part was on the societal values, and here we see definitely that energy efficiency is an important issue for the projects, together with privacy, security, and human safety, and also following a quite large number of values which are on the medium, let's say, scale of the importance, like environmental impact, the cost, accessibility, quality of life, economic resiliency, and markets. What we can notice is that no project currently has reported focus on societal resilience and trust or democracy. Other projects, or one project also mentions in the free text that technological sovereignty and intellectual property valorization through standardization is important, and this also resonates very good with what we saw in question V1 on the challenges. So what has happened from Call 1 to Call 3 on these things? And I discussed these challenges and values in combination, since we have during these three questionnaires have changed and developed how we ask how we ask the questions and what options we offer. But sustainability has been top rated by the projects in all three calls. In the first two, Call 1 and Call 2 questions in 2023 and 2024, sustainability was discussed as a societal value, but now for this questionnaire, we move this as a societal challenge. But it's still on top, and related challenges comprises aspects of energy consumptions and efficiency, carbon footprint, etc. Second, security, confidentiality, and privacy has all the time been rated above medium. For Call 1, a bit low on Call 2, and then a bit higher again in Call 3. Both here in terms of values and challenges in both respects. Sovereignty has been asked all the time. We have asked the same question for all three calls and or had the same options, and this has been rated medium, and it's quite stable support for that. European perspective, on the other hand, was not addressed in the first questionnaire, but for the second and third, this was addressed in the challenges section, referring to both European value-based approaches and the impact on standardization. And it has been on the top 3 list in both these two last calls, two last questionnaires. Moving on to the key value indicators, which is a more difficult issue because, and I will come back to a more comparison between the calls and how we have addressed this in the next slide. But we can see on top here, trials, experiments in the laboratory is rated the most important tool for assessing KVIs. Also coming up is the using example use cases, scenarios, and case studies, and interestingly, twin systems or simulations. Measurements on deployed networks are medium rated, and it has been an increase from earlier calls. We can also see that in this time we also addressed trials and experiments involving users as a separate option. So if we compare how we have tried to find some information on how project work with KVIs, look at the developments from call 2 to call 3. In call 1, we did ask quite differently than we have done in call 2 and call 3, so I'm not comparing that. In call 1, we asked more specifically about which key values they were addressing at the moment, but we changed the focus from in last year and this year to ask for how they actually work with to address them, which methods they use. And if you look at the 3 options which were continued, trials, experiments, measurements on deployed networks, and assessment by subject matter experts, these are all have actually increased in let's say importance or being addressed by the projects. And if we take into account the number of projects we've asked, you can see the table on the right here. You can see that the percentage of projects actually using these methods have increased quite significantly. We did replace a couple of options about interviews and focus groups and asked more specific towards stakeholders on subjective engagements and ethnographic inquiries. We did also introduce some new options this year, asking for use cases, scenarios, and case studies, and the use of twin system simulators, technology or economic enablers, and the use of data from external options. And these may shed some light on the maturity of the 6G technology development, since addressing especially use cases, scenarios, and case studies came out very high this time. We did remove the option on questionnaires, as it says here, from call 2, because we believe this was a too broad approach. So having a better understanding of this by the options on subjective engagements and ethnographic inquiries. So the vision itself, we asked the projects on how they actually contribute to the 6G vision. And we can see that the most important contribution from the project is to foster the transition from 5G to 6G by extensions, enhancements, and modifications to sustain and enhance the 5G innovations. Also important to integrate new service capabilities is the second one. The third option, address potential shortcomings of 5G, is very much related to the first one, but it's also quite significant support for them for that, and also the fourth one on sustainable 6G ecosystems. We have different options in this call from call 2, and this has also been because we want to reflect how the objectives of the work programs has been developing over the different phases or calls of the project. Then last, let's see how the projects work with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is, we ask this because this is explicitly mentioned in the work program, and they have always, or over all the years with the work program, they have been asking specifically for contributions to 4 SDGs, which is the industry, innovation, infrastructure, the sustainable cities and communities, decent work and economic growth, and climate action. And we can see that these are still on top on the top 4, which has been the case actually all along the route. We also have discovered, which is not easy to see from this graph, there is a significant increase in support for some SDGs like responsible consumption and production, which is number 12, number 6, which is the clean water and sanitation, number 15, which is life on land, and which is number 17, which is the partnerships to achieve the goal. But there is, interestingly enough, a significant drop in support for goal 5 from call 2 to call 3, which is gender equality. Then we also have received a few open comments. This was part of an option in the questionnaire, and I took out this one, which is quite interesting. We have this, let's say, all of these things, they point forward to a different way of thinking. First of all, the network of network vision, which points to a distributed and modular 6G ecosystem. Also, how to, let's say, the design goals for 6G that will move from a performance-centric network toward what they call purposeful communication, which should then reduce network resource usage, enhance energy efficiency, and contribute to the overall sustainability. The importance of data can never be overrated, I think, and there is also a project that advocates that you should build the first comprehensive 6G data space to remove the barrier of data scarcity. Not least, last but not least, European sovereignty, which has come up more and more important in the last years, that we should address European technology sovereignty all the way from the hardware up to the networks in the vertical value chain. And with that, I think that was my last slide. So thank you for your attention.
And thank you very much, Per, for presenting the insights. I see that there are now some questions in the chat, but I suggest that we put them towards the end of the webinar where we have the Q&A. So I think at least they're partly not specific to a certain presentation. So, okay, then let's move forward with the last presentation on this part on the call 3 projects, and that is on the market insights and will be presented by Jessica Carnero from Australo. Jessica, we can see your slides in full screen mode. Very good. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So thank you for the introduction. So I'm Jessica Carneiro. I'm a project manager in Australia and part of the SNS Co-op team, and of course, previously SNS-OPS team. The market section addresses 9 main topics, which go from the key technologies and innovations expected with the advent of 6G to the potential obstacles to the SME participation. And now we will look at them quite fast, but a little bit more in detail. So regarding the first topic, which relates to the biggest market changes expected, sustainability and increased openness and variety of solutions and integration with vertical markets top the rank. In this sense, projects mention open ecosystems and emphasize ORAN and standardized APIs, as well as cross-industry collaboration. Vertical adoption is also stressed by the projects, especially concerning real-life pilots in sectors or verticals such as healthcare, logistics, agriculture, media, transportation, etc. And the business impact is also mentioned, as it's expected that this vertical integration and vertical adoption will lead to new business models and increase SME participation. Trustworthiness, interoperability, and market disruptors are also thought to be or anticipated to be big changes. And in this sense, we have especially also trustworthiness, in which projects mention the zero trust architecture, artificial intelligence, and quantum for for increasing safety and addressing early detection of risks and threats. And edge and federated learning is also cited among the technologies that will make an impact. And finally, regarding sustainability, sustainable 6G and 6G first sustainability, there is a shift towards the identification or to the development of more energy efficient hardware and networks, such as fluid antennas. NTN and decentralized computing are also believed to be somewhat disruptive in order to increase that energy efficiency. And finally, projects mention some other initiatives such as the reduction in e-waste and the support for zero energy devices and so on, as potential avenues and mechanisms to reduce the environmental impact. Although the comparison across calls is quite difficult for this question due to the evolution of the questions and answers across the different years, sustainable 6G and 6G for sustainability is deemed as being really important, as well as the increased openness. And even though this has experienced some changes over the years, but it remains a priority. Trustworthiness has experienced an increase in the there is a higher attention from projects in everything related to security, reliability, and privacy. And on the other hand, private networks continue to be at the bottom as in previous years. The second question was related to the technologies and innovations expected to play an important role. And AI-based solutions continue to be the most important one in view of the projects. As mentioned before, or following what we saw in the previous question, trustworthiness and edge cloud continuum are ranked second, and open and disaggregated solutions and increased technical integration are also quite noteworthy. However, automation has really dropped to the bottom in comparison with previous years. And here we can see it a little bit better how all projects across calls really stress the importance of AI-based solutions. The perceived importance of trustworthiness has only steadily increased. And it's noteworthy mentioning that localization and sensing technologies appear to be less central in this later call, although they are still quite important. Question 3 addresses the vertical sectors that are anticipated to be more impacted by the advent of 6G. Industry and manufacturing is at the top. It's really a central focus for all projects, or almost all projects, with 73%. Automotive is also important, but after Industry 4.0, we see that the opinions are quite varied, and not a sector achieves like the attention of half of the project. So we have automotive, transport and logistics, and healthcare that are notable among projects, but none of those really go beyond the 50% of the projects. On the bottom, agriculture is still not among the priorities. Energy, interesting, it's also not among the priorities. And smart cities has experienced quite decline in the attention. And again, here we can see the comparison, although it's not super clear. But Industry 4.0, as mentioned, it still remains the most central sector. And automotive and transport and logistics have varied a little bit across years, but they are still among the top. Media and XR has declined very much from the first call, in which 64% of the projects were addressing this vertical, and to only now less than 30% of the projects are addressing media and XR technologies. There is a growing consensus on the impact of 6G in security, public safety, and PPDP. And as mentioned, agriculture, education, and construction seem to be according to the projects, the verticals that will be less affected. But of course, here we also have to go back to the different texts of the different calls to understand some of the differences as they emphasized some different verticals across the years. In terms of validation of business opportunities, it's clear that Call 3 projects rather do this by working closely with use case owners. And then they choose kind of different methods. There is not really a consensus, although the use of the value proposition canvas is quite popular. When compared across the last 3 calls, we see that working with use case owners is the preferred one, although in the second call, it was not the case, because the development of hypotheses among verticals was the most popular. And this one, it's still like among the preferred one, the preferred methods by projects, but not as much as the work with use case owners. And the value proposition canvas, of course, it's really widespread as well, and the methods suggested by 6GIA are increasingly used by projects. The use of open call mechanisms appears as the bottom, but this is due to the ability to participate in this mechanism, which is not always depending on the projects, as the let's say the funding or just the opportunity to partake in this is limited to the different open calls. When we look at how projects assess commercial viability, so the return of investment, the responses are also quite varied, but it's clear that the techno-economic analysis is the preferred method and the most used one, even though only 53% of the projects use it. So just a little, slightly above average. When comparing this, we see a drop, but still, like techno-economic analysis is, it has been consistently the most used method. And then the responses vary a lot across the options. So identify cost items that you can quantify is also quite popular. But it's not quite as quite there. And then the use of Monte Carlo simulation and sensitivity analysis are among the least used ones. When speaking about the greatest obstacles for the deployment of 6G, most projects in Call 3 believe that the spectrum availability and the lack of demand for 6G only services constitute the main barriers to this 6G deployment. The deployment costs are still important, although a little bit less, and as well as trustworthiness, which, as we said, it has been kind of a constant highlight across the different questions. And if we look at the comparison, actually, the deployment costs, even though they still remain relevant, the importance has really declined over the years. So in Call 1, it was one of the main concerns, if not the primary concern, with 67% of the projects choosing it. Whereas now less than half of the projects think this is going to be a problem. However, spectrum availability has risen as a primary concern among projects, which at the beginning, in the first call, it was not deemed to be so relevant. So this also shows how the different concerns are changing over the years as the technology is developed, and some concerns that were considered previously are now a little bit less relevant, but new ones kind of appear. Of course, the lack of demand is a constant one. It's also interesting to note how much the competition and locking attempts from incumbent actors has dropped. So it's no longer really a big concern from projects when compared to Call 1. In the question 7, it addresses the following topic. Do you believe enhancing 5G towards 6G can mobilize the ecosystem forward? So a majority of projects, so there is a consensus that 6G will mobilize the ecosystem forward. So there is no doubt in that regard. It will help integrate sectors and technologies, unlocking entirely novel market sectors. And some of the key markets that we've already kind of addressed, but here we also, this question is free text, so we got some additional answers. So we have grouped them in immersive and interactive digital services. So here, holographic communication, metaverse application, Internet of Senses are deemed very important. AA native and autonomous industries will really drive advancements in the industrial automation. They will improve reliability. They will lower latency and secure networks for smart factories, among many other things. The projects also mention dynamic supply chains and intelligent energy grids. Public services are also mentioned. So 6G will enhance telemedicine, smart mobility, emergency response systems, network as a service, and AI as a service are also expected to be quite relevant. IoT, of course, everything, it will make everything smart, connected, self-powered with the proliferation of IoT devices and the capabilities of 6G. And mission critical services are also stressed. So 6G is expected to introduce zero trust security, AI-driven threat intelligence, quantum-safe encryption, blockchain-based trust mechanisms, foster green ICT and sustainability platforms, enabling demanding applications such as cobots and ubiquitous communication. And some of the challenges here we already saw some of them, and here we see some additional ones, is the standardization and the cost associated for it. Having solutions that address the requirement of a large variety of verticals versus having very tailored solutions to very specific verticals or even small part of those verticals. And then this is the development and implementation of sustainable solutions. The care, here we see the key exploitable results. They are grouped in 5 categories: AI and ML, network architecture and management, security and privacy, energy efficiency, and 6G specific technologies that has like communication and sensing, hardware and network architecture, among others. So I won't go through all of them, but because this question is very broad and we get a lot of answers. And then you can see on the right the TRL associated per each of the key exploitable results mentioned. So you see very low TRL, 2 to 4, or low to medium, but this needs to be read carefully because, as I said, it depends a little bit among the many care that the projects have. But after that, we see that there is plenty of care with a TRL between 4 and 6 and 5 and 6. And this shows us, as Costas also mentioned in the technical section, that the technology is developing, it's becoming more sophisticated and closer to the market. And to finalize, we asked the projects about how they promote the participation of SMEs. And here there are a few, the main actions or the main instruments on how they do that. And one is the active participation. So most projects have SMEs as consortium partners, especially leveraging their niche expertise in areas such as Open RAN solutions, IoT, digital twins, and so on. Technology development and validation, because SMEs are often engaged in developing these new technologies, and they kind of go quickly due to their own demands to kind of test their products and have or trying to push and accelerate the development, testing, and validation of the technology. The market expansion is also one benefit of the SMEs, as thanks to their partners and the involvement in the consortium, they can access new markets. They can be, in terms of partners, geographical location, or just because they diversify their portfolio with new solutions and services. Collaboration and networking, it's self-explanatory. And finally, the creation of new business opportunities is very important for some of the projects, as it's due to the flexibility of SMEs to adapt to the circumstances. It's deemed to be kind of easier to develop new business models and innovative services with SMEs at the center. And with this, I finalize. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for the presentation. Very interesting again. And also, I think, encouraging to see that an outcome was that the community sees that 6G will stimulate the ecosystem. So I think that's, encouraging for everyone working on towards 6G at the moment. So let's move on then with looking at achievements towards certain KPIs and metrics for the Call 1 and Call 2 projects. And a presentation has been prepared for that by Ada Gorilla and Pierre-Yves Danet. And the floor is open to you. Ada, I think you will start.
Yes, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you, Uwe. My name is Arda Güreler from Ericsson. I will talk about the questionnaire results for Call 1 and 2 projects, which were ongoing for last 2 years. I will start with an overall outcome of the projects. So if you look at the timetable, this is the time starting from January 2023 to December 2024. We have in total 63 projects who has responded to this questionnaire. This is the cumulative outcome. I will in the next slides show you the results of the 2024. But here, if you look at the cumulative results, projects have interacted with 1,341 events. They have organized 294, and majority of them supported or contributed to the events, 1,047. If you look at the tests and trials, the projects again interacted with 269 tests and trials. 184 of them were proof of concepts and lab, and 85 of them were trials and pilots. And projects also produced quite a lot of publications during those 2 years. They have in total produced 1,439 publications. 506 of them were articles in different journals. They have produced 43 white papers, and eventually 890 publications in conference, proceeding, and workshop. They have also contributed to the standards with 1,135. Due to their research activities, they have submitted 91 patent applications, and they also benefited from the open source in different ways. And there were interaction with the open source organizations, 536. They have used the solutions, open source solutions in their projects, and it was around 373. They submitted their own contributions coming out from their projects, which was around 100, and 64 of those submitted contributions are accepted by the open source community. If I go in detail to questions now, and these are reflecting the figures from 2024. Our first question was about the events. How many events has your project organized or contributed? We have received quite high number of response, 944, and most of the contribution to most of the events are contributed by the projects. So projects contributed around 733 events, and they only organized 194 events, which is around 21% of the overall. And most preferred events, if you look at in the summary table here, ESNC, Mobile World Congress, IEEE, FNWF, IEEE, CAMAT, and PMRC were the most preferred events. And one project's average event interaction was around 15. And if you look at the events projects have organized and contributed, the majority of them are conferences, around 377, and it is followed by the workshops and finally the sessions. So top 3 preferred events were listed like this. If I move to the next one, publications that projects have authored in 2024. Again, we received a quite high number of response, 1,107 publications. And a project's average publication is around 18, which is quite nice. And most preferred journal or conferences were Open Journal of the Communication Society, WCNC, Globcom, EUCNC, and IEEE Transaction on Vehicular Technology. When we received those responses, we have seen that in 110 publications, SNS projects collaborated with each other, or SNS bodies. When we look at the types of SNS project publications, it's mostly publication, conference, proceedings, and workshop with 651, followed by article in journal, 376, and others. When we look at the contributions to standard organizations, which are coming directly from the projects, in total, contributions to standard organizations were 574. And one project's average contribution is around 14. If you look at the organization names, standardization organization's name, it's mostly 3GPP with 221 contribution. It is followed by IETF, 167, and finally the ETSI in the third place with 124. I will not read all the other bodies, but the majority of the top three I will share with you. If you look at the IPR, intellectual property rights or patent applications coming out of the projects, in total, in 2024, we have received 59 responses. Most of them are still under evaluation when we collected the responses, so which was around April, May. So only 8 of them were at that time accepted. And if you look at the patent IPR applications, their topics are grouped around satellite communications, network management and optimization, machine learning and AI, security and privacy, radio and wireless technologies, IoT, emerging network technologies. Patents or IPR applications were mostly coming from Stream B. As you can see, 50 of them were coming from directly Stream B and followed by other Stream A and Stream C. And if you look at the IPRs coming from the calls, it's mostly call 1. I think the reason behind it because they have been running last 2 years. So this is why majority of the patents are coming from call 1 projects. Yes, Pierre, are you with me?
Yes, I am with you.
Okay,
just yes, very quickly, regarding the different development of project and experimentation. So Q5 was targeting proof of concept, so meaning TRL3, as Jessica explained before, and lab test, which was more or less TRL4. And so looking to call 1 and 2 POC, so you can see that in total, so there were 138 POC which has been executed, and so we have also tried to identify those which are replicable, meaning those that could be reused for other project, for integrator, for DIH in other location, and 96 of them are replicable, which is very good, as a way, to transfer innovation to the market. So in detail, so Call 1 project have executed 120 POC, and Calls 2 only 18, because obviously Call 1 project are at the end, and most of the development of Call 2 will be next year. It will be this year, 2025, and so maybe 2026. And 25 POC are addressing verticals, so the others are targeting telecom use case, enablers, and so on, which are also quite important to develop. So next slide. Looking to trials, so meaning TRL 5, 6, or 7. So you will see that obviously most of the trial have been executed by Call 1 project. In total, so we have 60 trials and pilot, which has been executed, and 42 are replicable, as explained before. So most of the trial and pilot has been executed by Call 1 project, obviously, and so Call 2 will make them, you know, in so this year in 2025 and maybe 2026. And so 31 of them are also addressing verticals, so more or less, so half of them are addressing verticals, which is quite good, because one of the objectives of the SIG, so the SNS, is really to engage verticals, so it's a good result. And obviously, so we need also to develop technologies, and all the other one are targeting telecom use cases. So I think it's all from my side, Arda.
Thank you, Pierre, for your support and your comments. And I continue with the next question. It was about how many open source solutions has your project made use of in 2024? In total, we received 240 responses received. And if you look at the area of application purpose of solutions, it was mostly of data management and analytics, Edge and IoT, robotics and computer vision, energy efficiency and green ICT, 5G and network technologies, AI and machine learning, blockchain and security, and finally cloud and virtualization. There are quite a lot of different open source solutions that have been used. We have reflected here top 20 only, and most preferred ones, top 3, maybe we can say Open5GS, Kubernetes, and Prometheus, and also free 5G. See. Our next question was about how many open source contribution has your project generated and submitted, and how many were accepted in the relevant communities in 2024. 63 projects have submitted 100 open source contribution. 64 of them were approved. And on the left side, you can see the 64 approved contributions to open source communities. Zenodo was one of them on the top 3, GitHub, followed by GitHub. They had the same score, and Etsy, Teraflow, SDN. Zenodo and GitHub have no acceptance criteria, but are very important for the community engagement. So this is why they are there as well. Another question was about, has your project experimented with the energy efficiency solutions in 2024? In total, 17 projects responded to this energy efficiency solution. And when we summarize their contribution in energy efficiency, they were mostly focusing on energy efficiency in Open RAN, blockchain and security-based energy efficiency, hardware and computing power efficiency, wireless communication and IoT energy efficiency, and finally sustainability metrics and experimental validation. Energy efficiency solutions were mostly coming from the stream B, followed by stream A and C, D. And Call 1 projects were mostly contributing to the energy efficiency solutions. And Call 2 are contributing with 5 energy efficiency solutions. We had a question regarding the high-risk research. This was about the approximation of percentage in terms of budget share, and regarding TRL1, technology readiness level 1 and 2 correspond to high-risk research. And we have received for TRL1, this slide is for TRL1. On the next slide, you will see on the TRL2 responses. We have received 10 projects responded to TRL1 high-risk research response. 4 of the responders were estimating 5% of their budget can be considered as a high-risk research, and 3 projects mentioned that their 20% of funding can be estimated as a TRL1 high-risk research. And if you look at the topics that they have mentioned about the high-risk research, it was about semantics-based innovation for IoT devices, human-machine intent interface design, quantum architecture, RF wireless power transfer, zero-crossing modulation, network architecture for integrated ISAC, highly accurate time frequency sources, physical layer of terahertz communication, mesh-based radio access network. When we have the TRL2 responses, so as you can see, this time the number of projects has increased to 26. And as you can see, most of the projects responded have a good distribution for the TRL2 high-risk research activities. You can see the ratios that they estimated for their TRL2 high-risk research activities, and the topics that those 26 projects mentioned about high-risk research were AML solutions for 6G network automation, steerable optical wireless communications, security and resource allocation in 6G, radio protocol and network enhancements, development of novel optical transmitter architectures, MAC protocols and terahertz RF front ends, service-based architecture and frameworks, physical layers, security and transference in AI/ML, materials development for reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, unit cell control, medium access control solution and AI-based resource management, development of integrated dual polarized lens front end, and finally advanced communication schemes for joint communication sensing paradigm. So that was all from my side, Uwe. So I hand over to you for questions and answer section.
Thank you very much, Ada and Pierre-Yves, for the presentation. Yeah, let's look at the few questions. I can again share my PowerPoint slides where I have noted them, so everyone can take a look at the questions. Okay. First two questions are going in a similar direction. First one, have you compared the results with the call program to see if we generally cover the expectation? And the second, would you like to have a more balanced distribution with future calls? I assume that the question of more balanced refers to the various priorities that we have seen, which of course differ on the various categories. Is there anyone from the SNS office, I think, who could probably best answer this question?
Yes, Uwe, I think I can take this one. Of course, that's I will share with you my own views on this, but in general, I mean, about the balance distribution, I think we can consider three aspects with respect to the balance distribution. One is on the technical aspect that the program is covering, and I would say that actually we are in close collaboration with CGIA, and we have carried out together a lot of workshops in defining the priorities of the current call for last year, in order to make sure that actually we will address all the new priorities with respect to the technical aspects. So there were several workshops on cloud services, non-terrestrial networks, microelectronics, photonics, security, etc. And I think that we in the current call, the fourth call, we have a rather balanced approach. And just to give you an example, in B01, which is the topic relevant to new activities in the most, let's say, exploratory research activities, and more specifically in B01, which is about advanced architecture systems and technologies, and B0102, which is about IoT and device technologies. We have defined 5 and 3 priorities respectively. And if you see the call text, we are asking the proposers to target 1 So actually to have the center of gravity in one out of these priorities. This, of course, does not mean that actually they will not cover other priorities, but in the context of the evaluation, and in order to ensure a balanced portfolio within this cluster of activities, we will, apart from the, let's say, of the overall ranking, we'll also make sure that actually we will adequately cover all these priorities in order to have a balanced approach in the way that actually the projects within these two exploratory topics will cover. Now, if you go to the level of maturity, for example, which is another aspect in the version of the project portfolio, then we're aiming at different TRLs. So from the beginning of the program, we have the different work streams. So starting from low TRL in stream B to higher TRL in stream C and stream D. Now, if you see the statistics, we have around 2/3 of, let's say, high-risk research, mainly focusing on activities of stream B, and 1/3 in activities of stream C and stream D. The focus, of course, as we are moving towards more mature technology, is to move to higher TRLs. And as a matter of fact, the target foreseen for next year is to have a 50-50 project portfolio. I don't know if we achieve that, but the idea is that actually, as we move towards mature technologies, the percentage of high risk that is lower TRL project will be lower. And the last aspect that I would like to mention is the verticals, because verticals are very important, as you clearly mentioned, so especially in stream C and in pilots in stream D. So in order to make sure that actually we are addressing adequately a set of verticals that we believe that they are of significant priority, based also on the result of the 3TP PSA1 workshop, we have identified in this call 5 verticals, including industry, manufacturing, media, transportation, emergency safety services, and health. And we have, again, we are mentioning the program that actually the proposals should focus on a specific vertical, or maximum 2. In order to make sure that actually when we are having the new projects from this call, we will address all these 5 verticals. So in a nutshell, yes, we are trying not to have a balanced approach in the technology, in the maturity, and in the verticals that we are addressing with our project portfolio, especially with the new calls. And of course, we are keep listening, the community, through different workshops and other activities in order to make sure that actually, if there are new needs arising, that this will be covered in the future calls.
Thank you, Odysseas. Yeah, interesting to hear the view. Good, then let's move on to the last question, as we are nearly at the end of the webinar. This question was, will you give any conclusion based on the questionnaire? I could already say that yes, we will definitely give one in the deliverable that we are going to publish later in the year. The question is, does any of the speakers of today want to make any statement, any conclusion, insights, anything? Is there anyone who wants to say anything? No, seems not.
Well, maybe one thing to mention from my side, which sort of complements what Odysseas was just saying. I think one of the main reasons we do this is to keep track of where the projects are going, to be able to compare with what's happening in the rest of the world in terms of 6G research and innovation activities, and to perform a gap analysis exactly compared to the wishes where we would like the program to go and whether we're on track or whether we need to course correct, etc. So we are doing all these activities, and the people from the core team that are working on the annual work programs are using this information to make sure that the goals of the previous work program were covered, or if there are some gaps detected, that they are taken into account in the future work program. We've also used them to ensure that we're on par and aligned with global priorities around the world, and this is also the case. So I guess one key conclusion coming out of this is that we seem to be moving in the right direction. We seem to be building the proper expertise that is needed and to be covering all the bases that we are expected to cover when we're talking about 6G technologies that could play a significant role in the future. As a headline, let's say, at least from the technical point.
Thanks, Kostas. Anyone else wants to comment? No. Okay, then quick outlook. At the end of the webinar, SNS Co-op will, of course, continue to ask the projects about plans, progress, etc. We'll have call for projects starting next year. We will keep asking the projects that were ongoing about their achievements, their metrics. There's one new aspect that we need to address, and that is that in this year, the first projects from Call 1 will already be ending. Some already in summer, some at the end of the year. Some will also, of course, will continue into next year, but not too many. So that's some additional aspect that we need to take into account in order to make sure that we also will cover the latest status of their achievements at project end, but that's more SNS Co-op in internal matter. And with that, I'd like to thank again all the speakers for the presentations. I'd like to thank the audience for your interest in participating. As I said, we will make the recording available. You can find it once it's published on the event webpage of that event. And we will also upload the presenter slides there so you can again review the presentations. Thanks very much. Let's stay in touch, and I hope to see you and many of you again in one of our future webinars. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.